My name's Stryftek, and I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. Is it worth your time? On trial today, Silly Polly Beast. Made by Onji Games, a sole developer who made Furry Turn on Steam and a few other mobile games. However, this seems to be his current magnum opus. Silly Polly Beast is a horror survival game that blends multiple gameplay styles. One moment you're downhill skateboarding in a third person, next you're side-scrolling puzzle solving, and then another when you're top-down shooting or stealthing. Pair that with its story of grief, loss, sacrifice, and some other horrid things, you'll find Silly Polly isn't actually very silly. You play as Polly, a mute orphan who recently escaped the orphanage and made it across the river. There you wait for your friends Alice and the other children from the orphanage, but they never show. So you go looking for them. You find some shady characters and what seem to be police looking for you, and as you flee you fall into a deep hole and find yourself in the abyss. As you explore, you're greeted by a demon and a dog who promise to help you, in return for freeing him, of course. And thus your journey begins. You learn more about Polly, her background, the orphanage, their escape plan, and some of the awful things that went on there. Eventually you make it back to where everything began and learn what truly happened in that orphanage. And it isn't for the light of heart. Now, while this story did captivate me, I was far more interested in how the story was told. I'll dive a little more into that when we talk about the graphics. It was the way things were emphasized, the story that was told without anything being said, and the way the visual clues just helped connect all the dots. It was all just top tier, and ultimately, the choices you made influenced what happened. This is where the game falls a little flat. When I first started playing this, the game was just way too unforgiving, even on the easier difficulties. But the developer has been very responsive and very aware, and there has been patches since that. There are still a few bosses that I found were a little too unfair and just a pain in the butt to beat, but overall it was fine. The part that wasn't fine was the combat, specifically the melee combat. You have a skateboard to slap people around with, but honestly it's almost useless. In one of the recent patches, a heavy skateboard attack would break an enemy's armor, and while that was a nice addition, the damage is just too low and the combos are interruptible. You'd walk up to hit an enemy and they would dodge a couple of hits and then they just kick you away. The whole time I was hoping I would find a sword or upgrade the skateboard in some way, anything to give it a little bit more oomph. The guns, on the other hand, were actually pretty good. The game almost feels like a twin-stick shooter, however, given the survival horror aspect, you could never go full bore with the weapons and just shoot all the things. And while it wouldn't fit the survival aspect of it, I do wish they would have done that instead. The music that erupts when you get into combat really fits the idea of a twin-stick shooter. Instead, you're just running around in circles, trying to make every shot count, conserving ammo, and then hitting people with skateboards. There's also a stealth mechanic, but enemies have 360 vision. So instead of sneaking up on one, you're just sort of repositioning yourself to start the fight or maybe trigger a trap. Sometimes you could stealth through and skip the whole room, but that was rare. Now, I wouldn't go so far to say that the combat was bad, it was just missing something. My suggestion of turning it into a twin-stick shooter would take away the parts of survival and horror from the game, so that's not a good idea. But something like an upgrade system or just something to make combat feel a little bit better would be nice. But lucky for us, the gameplay does not revolve only around combat. The puzzles, though not really head-scratchers, do exist, and it does do a cool shift to often this 2D side-scrolling aspect when presenting them. The shift in perspective, it actually does quite a bit. We go from skateboarding in sort of a third-person mode to puzzle solving in a 2D side-scroll mode to the combat in the top-down mode. And many games royally screw things up when they do this, but Silly Polly does it very well. So while the combat did leave me wanting more, everything else was serviceable. The levels of artistic genius this game has is actually insane. This shifting perspective I mentioned before is often used to tell the story, with many scenes dedicated to just a singular emotion or a singular feeling. I found myself often just taking screenshots or sitting in the moment just to look at them. Now, to note, these aren't hyper-realistic 3D rendered scenes or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be to evoke emotion. What's more important is the presentation and the audio that goes behind it. For example, just watch this scene play out. The moment just lingers with you, and you can feel the emotions of the scene. It not only gives you insight into Polly's current state and feelings, but links you more emotionally to her, making it so when those important choices come up in the story, you really stop to think about them. Then they'll throw in music like this at you. These were done by Bass and Panda, and they're just awesome. So, is it worth your time? Right now, it's about $20 on Steam. It'll take you between 7 and 10 hours to finish it. Then a little bit more if you want to see the other endings or get all the achievements. My playthrough clocked in at about 10, the majority of which was done on the Steam Deck, and it runs really well on that. This is a very unique game, the likes of which I haven't seen before. Its mixture of different perspectives, story, and presentation were all quite incredible. And while the combat didn't wow me, it didn't have to. The story and graphics helped elevate this game and provide an experience I will not be forgetting anytime soon. So yes, this is worth your time. My name's been Stryftek, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, by all means, click that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Is It Worth Your Time?